It's a game that's supposed to be hard. The same as Dark Souls.
That's right. We're back at it again. This article literally proclaims that not having an easy mode in your game is a lack of respect for your players. That's absolutely right. Sekiro Shadow Dies Twice needs to respect its players and add an easy mode. Now, if you're not familiar with David Thier, he is the same dude that wrote the same article about Dark Souls 3. Elitism and Dark Souls 3 easy mode. Now, if you need a 30,000 foot view on this, and every time there's a brutally difficult game released to the market, here's how it goes. Game is hard. Game gets good marketing traction because game is hard. Also, by the way, freaking beautiful game, excellent game, not without its flaws, but significantly above average. One of the longest running series on the new consoles, new generations out there, has a cult following, a speed run following, a mod following. The Dark Souls franchise is a winner. Every time a game like Dark Souls or Sekiro comes out, or Cuphead, you always get some games journalist complaining that the game is too hard. We all know the hilarious memes of a game journalist trying and failing miserably at playing Cuphead. We've seen the artists or the articles around games journalists complaining it's too hard. We're going to look at the Sekiro article here in a moment. But in general, I think the argument from game journalists is when it's too hard. There is usually pushback with a standard get good scrub. And ultimately, yeah, sometimes people go a little bit too far. Sometimes people, are mean-spirited about it, but I don't care if people are mean. You're writing hate bait articles, only 10,000 views on Forbes? Zoiks. Only 12,000 views? Hey, like this video. Let's see if we can beat Dave Thier's... my chair. Let's see if we can get a few more views than Mr. Thier. Now, this isn't a attack at him in particular, but I want to share a quick story with you. When I finally reached the ripe boomer age of 35, I started looking back at my childhood, at collecting the things that I could never afford to have when I was young, recollecting the things that I cherished the most when I was young. And when I thought about my first video game experiences, they were on the Nintendo Entertainment System. The first games I purchased to rebuild a collection, because when I was young, we didn't have a lot of money. I didn't own Nintendo games. I rented them. I rented them from the grocery store. That's how old I am. Shout out if you can remember renting video games from the grocery store. It was always a mad dash on Friday. You didn't want to get to the game store. You didn't want to get to the grocery store after 6 o'clock on a Friday because you were going to be left with like 3 choices, because they would only ever carry 1 or 2 copies of the best games. And if you were smart, you went on Thursday night and you paid that extra $2 to rent it through the weekend. But we didn't have extra money. My parents weren't going out of their way to make sure I could play more video games at that age. But the games I most remember, the games I made sure to purchase, were some of the most brutally difficult games ever. Games like Battletoads. One of the most brutal games ever. One of my most satisfying victories, beating that game. Castlevania. Another brutally difficult game at times as a platformer. Beating this game was a super feeling. Ninja Gaiden. One of the most unforgiving games I've ever played. Beating this game still evades me. But it's one I will continue to try to beat. The point is, not every game is for everyone. Isn't that what a lot of these journalists are always saying it's not for you. The Souls series of games and being brutally difficult is literally their thing. It's ingrained enough into the history of the game franchise, into their own lore, that it might as well be like Mario Kart having red or blue shells. You know what you're getting into when you play one of these games. It's about the journey. It's about not giving up, so you actually feel good when you beat it. That's why people are so defensive of it. Now, if it was just a crap game that was difficult for difficult's sake, nobody would play it, first of all. But it's like saying, these journalists write these articles, it's like saying, these peppers are too hot. Okay. Stop eating them, right? In the modern era, we have map markers, we have hand holding, we have easy modes. I mean, even the Division 2, I find at times, I look back to even PlayStation generation games, like the open world in Final Fantasy VII. I had to have a map on the floor next to me that I would be looking at, trying to figure out where the heck I was in the world. Division 2 just has a nice orange line, literally holding my hand through every major objective of the game. It's a quality of life thing. I don't hate it. But in a way, I miss that stumbling around, trying to get to know the map. You used to have to know landmarks on the map. There are people that play like World of Warcraft that can look at a picture and tell you exactly where it is. And you could make the argument that video games back in the day did have easy modes. They were called cheats. But, I mean, I didn't use those either. One of the biggest regrets I've had, and I've said multiple times on this show, is using the gold bar glitch in Red Dead Redemption 2, because I never got to experience scarcity. I robbed myself of that experience, and I can't wait to go do a second playthrough with it. I don't think these people understand that most game companies don't care about hardcore gamers, right? They care about the casual gamers who just play their games and move on. There's way more of them than the hardcore get good scrub crowd. But that doesn't mean that there can't be games for the hardcore gamers. That doesn't mean that people shouldn't appreciate the journey as much as the destination. Sekiro Shadows Die Twice needs to respect its players and add an easy mode. How about respect yourself and take on a challenge? And if you can't handle a challenge, how about just not playing the game? You have articles like, Ubisoft's open the door. Can we have a skip boss fight? I never thought in a lifetime I would see games journalists advocating skipping boss fights. It's literally everything you work up to in a level. First of all, why would you want to rob yourself of that accomplishment? Second of all, it's an important part of the game. Who would want to skip that? Some people, I guess. You can call gamers elitist when they make fun of you for sucking at a video game, and that's fine. Maybe some of them are, but also realize that you don't have to play the game. And that the developers of this game knew that when they put the game together. They wanted, there's a reason, there's a lore around beating the original Dark Souls game. Back when that was out, you knew every one of your friends that beat it because they would tell you. It was an accomplishment. Now beating games is just a natural thing to happen. Games are too dang easy. Sekiro Shadows Die Twice is the latest offering from software developer known among other things for punishingly difficult games. So, the game is exactly what you expected it to be and you're still complaining about it. It debuted the new style with Demon Souls, cemented the Dark Souls before swaggering across the game industry with Bloodborne, my drug of choice, and the one that has been the most engaging game experiences I've ever had. These games have achieved a kind of cult status in certain corners of gaming community where people use this as a kind of litmus test to whether or not someone is a, quote, true gamer or a filthy casual. Hey, you know what? Maybe there are plenty of options for filthy casuals. I would consider myself at times a filthy casual. My problem with this is I didn't think I'd write any of these articles. By the way, this person has complained about easy mode, every one of them. If I didn't like them so much. There are other difficult games I won't play and whatever, but the difficulty is only one part of what defines these games for me. And honestly, it's not even the most important part to you. FromSoftware has some of the best world building in the business. And I would argue that the best character design. Early on in Sekiro, I had to sneak under a bridge where I found this bizarre misshapen hermit man that lunged at me with a wicked knife from underneath a broad straw hat. It was gross and strange. The sort of thing you can almost smell. The first glimpse I had had of the malformed underbelly of this world, and I'd only taken a few steps in. That's what I remember from Bloodborne more than anything. Something about lonely, horrible way that these characters move endlessly fascinating. A move is so endlessly fascinating that I could watch it all day. Every time I see the one, I just need to see the rest. Lots of developers have attempted to imitate From's style, aggressively spare storytelling that relies on opaque description and occasional short dialogue, but only the Hollow Knight ever came close. And that's what makes these games so special. There's a lot of talk about respecting the player when it comes to not including an easy mode, an idea that all players can and should play this game in a particular punishing way. No, see, that's not correct. Can't the developer make the game they want to make? This is the same argument when we talk about a lot of the political angles that sometimes get put into games. So if you want the developers to be able to make the game they want to make, why, in this case, is it such a problem? When you say stuff like, what's particularly galling about Sekiro and all other FromSoftware's games at least had some sort of safety valve to allow you to move past the game's most difficult boss encounters with a little help by summoning other players into your game. Sekiro removes that. So even if you run up against a brick wall, that's it. Either you beat your head against the wall or you stop playing. Yeah. When that happened for me, when I was 13 years old, you had to call Nintendo Power for $2.99 a minute. There was no... In a world where you have YouTube Let's Plays that will literally walk you through every step you need to do to beat a boss in a game, at the fingertips, if you're playing this game, you probably have a smartphone. If you're playing this game, you have the internet. So at your fingertips, you have nearly limitless help. What's wrong with doing a little legwork? That's part of the experience. You don't have to stop playing. You do what I do when I get stuck. You pause it, you pull up a YouTube video, and you figure out who beat it, and then you go and do it. That's normal. What's wrong with that? Maybe that makes me a filthy casual? Okay. But I don't give up. I'm not a quitter. I might be a casual, but I ain't no quitter. Yet I think a lack of an easy mode showcases the exact opposite. It shows an almost stunning lack of respect for players with the idea that they cannot be trusted with their own gameplay experience. What? That even those who want to challenge a game would somehow be lured by the siren of lowering the difficulties and destroying their own experience because they're too impatient or immature to know that what they actually want. So his argument here is that, look, if you want to play it hard, play it on hard mode. If you want to play an easy mode, have an easy mode. Okay. All right, fine. But they don't have to do that. They don't have to have an easy mode. Most games I play, I just play at the difficulty that's already set in the game. And then if I go back for a second playthrough, I may change the difficulty settings. But sometimes I'm in the mood for a challenge. Most people have more than one game. So if you're in the mood for a challenge, boom, play some Sekiro. If you want something a little more hand-holding, play The Division 2. If you want, you know what I mean? You want to really have it easy, play some Candy Crush. The idea that I'd say to From fans, Believe in yourself. Know that you can play the game you want to play, even if others are playing the game they want to play. And easy mode does not have to be complicated. Ideally, I'd like to see that sort of deeper customization that Celeste has. But all you need to do is turn up the damage a player does and turn down the damage enemies do. That's it. Okay. I mean, sure. But maybe just don't play the game if it's too hard for you. I don't understand this perspective that everything has to be for everyone. Now, will people get toxic and be mean about it? Okay, sure. But to demand a publisher who wants to make the game they want to make changes is ridiculous. If you want to talk about entitled gamers, geez, just get good. I mean, I don't understand. The game's not impossible. You have limitless tools to figure things out. Just play a different game, dude. What's so hard about that? I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you have a wonderful day, and we'll talk to you again real soon.